Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Just because a voice is loud doesn't mean it's right. Just because a thought is persistent doesn't mean it's the truth. And just because someone has an opinion about your life doesn't mean you need to receive it. You don't have to listen to everything that talks to you. Now, we all know how much noise is out there. Social media, the news, family, friends, co-workers, random people online. It's constant. And the thing is, it's not just the outside noise. Oh no, sometimes the loudest noise is the one going off in your own head, that inner critic. That voice that says you're not good enough, you're too late, you'll never make it, why even try? Sound familiar? But here's the truth you need to grab onto today. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean you have to let it stay. Thoughts are like visitors. Some you welcome in, and others you need to show the door. You've got to start practicing mental boundaries. Not everything that pops into your mind deserves a seat at your table. You've got a purpose. You've got things to do. You cannot be entertaining every lie that comes knocking. See, the enemy doesn't need to destroy you if he can distract you. And that's what noise does. It distracts. It gets you tangled up in anxiety, insecurity, people-pleasing, overthinking. You start focusing more on what they said than what he said. You start believing the voice of fear more than the voice of faith. And before you know it, you're stuck, paralyzed, spinning in circles in your mind, going nowhere. And let me say this, you don't have to feel bad for ignoring people who drain you. It doesn't make you mean, it makes you wise. Protecting your peace is part of walking in purpose. You weren't called to carry the weight of everyone's expectations. If God called you, he'll equip you. He doesn't need a committee vote. You've got to get good at tuning out the noise so you can tune into truth. There are some voices you've been listening to for too long. Voices from your past telling you you're still broken. Voices from childhood saying you'll never measure up. Voices from failed relationships, failed jobs, failed moments. And here's the thing, those voices love to show up when you're about to make a move. When you're about to level up, here comes the noise. Who do you think you are? You're not qualified. They're going to laugh at you. And that's when you've got to recognize it for what it is, a distraction. You've got to say, I hear you, but I'm not listening. See, you don't fight thoughts with silence. You fight thoughts with truth. When fear says you can't, you say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When doubt says you're not enough, you say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You talk back, you speak the word. That's how you silence the noise. Knowing that not everything that affects you has to control you. You've got the Spirit of God in you, and that means you have the power to choose what you meditate on. You have the power to reject lies and receive truth. But you have to be intentional. You can't just drift and expect peace. You have to fight for it. You have to guard your mind, because where your mind goes, your life follows. And let me tell you, some of you aren't stuck because you're not capable. You're stuck because you've been listening to the wrong voice. You've been rehearsing rejection, replaying failures, repeating fear. And the longer you listen to it, the more it becomes your reality. That's why today is the day to make a shift, to take back your focus, to say enough is enough. Just because a voice is familiar doesn't mean it's truthful. Some of the voices you trust the most are the ones keeping you small. You have to make a decision whose voice gets to shape your story, because either you're going to live your life based on fear or based on faith. One keeps you surviving, the other pushes you into purpose. But they don't run together. One has to go, and the one you feed is the one that grows. You know, we live in a world that's obsessed with the show, the noise, the look at me culture. Everyone wants to be seen, be heard, be applauded. Let me tell you something straight. You don't have to make noise to make impact. Movement is often quiet but powerful. Some of the most important changes you'll ever make in your life won't come with fanfare. They won't be posted on social media. They won't get standing ovations or thousands of likes. But they will change the entire course of your future. There is power in the silent yes, power in the private decision, to try again. Power in the quiet commitment to grow, to heal, to believe again. Just because no one sees it doesn't mean it's not significant. Let's talk about the seed. You ever see a seed make noise? No. It doesn't shout, it doesn't announce, hey, I'm growing under here. But just because it's not visible doesn't mean it's not working. In fact, the most important part of a seed's growth, the part that anchors it, the part that determines whether it can handle the fruit that's coming, it all happens underground, in the dark, in the quiet, hidden. But if you dig it up too soon, if you interrupt that process just because nothing looks like it's happening, you kill the progress. That's how movement works. Quiet, steady, intentional. See, some of you are making moves right now that no one knows about. You're waking up earlier, you're praying more, you're cutting off unhealthy relationships, you're choosing peace over drama, you're reading books, applying discipline, holding your tongue when you could have clapped back. And guess what? That's movement. That's growth. That's maturity. It might not look flashy, but it's powerful. We've been conditioned to think that movement has to be dramatic. Big leaps, huge announcements, grand gestures, but some of the biggest moves you'll ever make are the quiet ones. Choosing not to quit, choosing to forgive, choosing to show up even when no one claps for you, choosing to stay obedient to the calling on your life when it looks like nothing is happening. That's the real grind. That's the quiet work that builds a solid foundation. And here's the kicker. God sees what you do in the quiet. That discipline, that patience, that perseverance you show when no one else is watching, oh, he sees it and he honors it. The world rewards performance, but God rewards faithfulness. And sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is just keep moving forward when everything around you tells you to stop. Let's be real. Quiet movement requires faith. It requires trust. It requires you to believe that progress is still progress, even if it doesn't come with public praise. Because not everyone is going to understand your process. Some people are only going to celebrate you once they see the fruit, but they'll never know the nights you cried, the battles you fought in silence, the moments you nearly gave up. And you don't owe anybody an explanation for how you're moving. Not everything needs a broadcast. Some of your best work happens behind the scenes. And let me tell you, when you're truly focused on your growth, you don't have time to make noise. You're too busy becoming, too busy evolving, too busy laying the foundation for something that's going to last. Noise might get attention, but quiet movement gets results. So don't let the silence fool you. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's not powerful. Just because no one's clapping doesn't mean heaven isn't cheering you on. You don't need the crowd to validate what God has already confirmed. You don't need the world's applause to make your next move. Stop waiting for a stage to take action. The stage will come when you're ready, but the preparation happens now, in the quiet, in the unseen places. In the moments where you choose to trust the process even when it feels like nothing is happening. That's where transformation is born. That's where strength is built. That's where purpose gets anchored. Let's get one thing straight. Stillness is not weakness. We've been taught to associate stillness with laziness or inactivity. Like if you're not always moving, always talking, always doing something, then you must be falling behind. But that's not the truth. Stillness isn't giving up. Stillness is gearing up. It's choosing clarity over chaos. It's the place where your spirit gets aligned before your feet start moving. See, we live in a world that glorifies hustle, always grinding, always proving, always performing. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse movement with progress. You'll start thinking, if I'm not doing 10 things at once, I must be behind. But activity doesn't equal productivity. Noise doesn't mean direction. There is power in the pause. Some of the biggest breakthroughs in your life will come when you stop, when you sit still long enough to hear what actually matters. Because the truth is, sometimes you can't even hear from God with all that noise around you. Your calendar is packed, your phone never stops buzzing, your mind is racing with worries and what ifs, and you wonder why you feel spiritually dry. It's not that God isn't speaking, it's that you haven't slowed down enough to listen. Stillness is where strategy is born. It's where clarity comes in. It's where peace gets the final say instead of panic. And let me tell you, peace isn't passive, peace is powerful. It takes strength to choose peace in a world that feeds on fear. It takes courage to say, I'm going to rest and trust that God is still working even when I'm not striving. That's not weakness. That's spiritual maturity. Now, don't misunderstand. Stillness isn't doing nothing. It's doing the right thing. It's positioning yourself to receive, to listen, to discern. Think about it. When the waters are stirred, you can't see what's underneath. But when things settle, when the surface becomes still, suddenly the truth becomes clear. That's what stillness does in your spirit. It calms the surface so you can see what's really going on down deep. Some of y'all are so used to chaos, you've made it your comfort zone. If it's not loud, if it's not dramatic, if you're not constantly fixing, managing, controlling, you don't know what to do with yourself. But hear me, you can't control and trust at the same time. You've got to choose. And trust often looks like stillness. Trust looks like waiting without whining. It looks like sitting without spiraling. It looks like saying, God, I don't see the whole picture yet, but I know you do, and that's enough. There are moments when God will intentionally slow you down, not to punish you, but to prepare you. He'll pull you back so he can launch you forward. But if you don't understand the purpose of the pause, you'll fight it. You'll grow impatient. You'll start comparing your timeline to someone else's. But let me remind you, you are not behind. You are in process. And sometimes the process looks like stillness, like sitting in the tension between where you were and where you're going. Stillness is also a protection. Some battles are not yours to fight. Some things don't require your reaction. They require your restraint. It takes more strength to hold your peace than to clap back. It takes more maturity to be still and let God handle it than to try and fix it in your own strength. The problem is, we think we're being strong when we're doing the most, but real strength sometimes means saying less, doing less, and letting God be God. You don't always have to explain yourself. You don't have to chase people down for closure. You don't have to post every step of your process just to prove you're still in motion. There's a difference between being still and being stuck. Stillness is a choice, a holy pause, a sacred reset. And in that space, you get to remember who you are, whose you are, and what really matters. Because when everything else is spinning, stillness gives you your center back. Let's be honest, approval feels good. We all want to be liked. We want the pat on the back, the thumbs up, the you're doing great from the people around us. There's nothing wrong with encouragement. It's human. But when your need for approval starts guiding your decisions more than your obedience to God, now we've got a problem. Because let's be real, you can't serve both approval and assignment. At some point, you're going to have to choose. And obedience is not always popular. It's not always comfortable. Obedience will have you walking in directions that don't make sense to other people. It'll have you doing things without explaining yourself. It'll have you stepping out in faith when everyone else is playing it safe. But too many people are delaying obedience because they're waiting on a round of applause. They're waiting on confirmation from family, validation from friends, permission from the crowd. Let me tell you something. The people who didn't call you can't confirm you. If God told you to move, then move. If he told you to let it go, let it go. If he told you to start it, build it, release it, walk away from it, then obedience is your answer. Not approval, not the vote of the crowd. Some people won't understand your obedience, and that's okay. It's not their vision. It's not their calling. It's not their lane. And here's the kicker. If you spend your life trying to keep everyone else comfortable, you will miss the move of God in your own life. There comes a point when you've got to stop explaining and start obeying. You weren't created to live under constant pressure to please people. You were created to walk in purpose, and purpose doesn't always make sense to people who aren't carrying your assignment. Obedience will cost you. Don't let anybody lie to you about that. It might cost you relationships, might cost you opportunities, might cost you being misunderstood, but the price of obedience is always worth it. What's worse is the cost of disobedience, because delayed obedience is still disobedience. And when you know what God has put on your heart, when you know he's nudging you to move, to speak, to shift, don't ignore it because you're scared of what people will think. Let me tell you something real. Some of the greatest moments of growth in my life didn't come after a big yes from people. They came after a quiet yes to God. No audience, no clapping, just me, God, and the uncomfortable choice to do what he said instead of what they wanted. And guess what? Peace followed obedience, not approval. Peace came not because everyone agreed with me, but because I knew I was aligned with God. We've got to stop chasing people's applause and start chasing God's will. Because here's the truth. Not everyone clapping for you is rooting for you, and not everyone silent is against you. So stop reading your life through the lens of people's opinions. Obedience doesn't require a consensus. It requires courage. And sometimes it looks like standing alone, walking away from the crowd, stepping into unknown territory with nothing but a word from God and a willingness to say, yes, Lord. Now let's talk about identity for a moment. If your identity is built on approval, you will always feel unstable, because the same people who praise you today can criticize you tomorrow. The crowd is fickle. Public opinion is shaky ground to build your life on. But when your foundation is obedience, when you know that you're living from a place of surrender, not performance, then it doesn't matter if everyone claps. You're anchored, you're rooted, you're solid. God isn't looking for perfection, he's looking for obedience. He's not asking you to have it all figured out, he's asking you to trust him enough to take the next step. Even when it doesn't make sense, even when people roll their eyes, even when they call you crazy, unqualified, too much, not enough. Obedience says, I'm not living for their approval. I'm living for his purpose. And when you choose obedience over approval, you begin to walk in a freedom that can't be shaken by human opinion. Because your yes is no longer tied to applause, it's tied to assignment. Absolutely. Here's the expanded version of Keynote 5. Don't just talk about it, be about it. In the same fire-filled, bold, and grounded tone. Let's get something straight. Talking about it isn't the same as doing it. We've got a lot of people with big dreams, big ideas, big prayers, and big plans. But no movement, no action, no execution. Just endless talking, posting, planning, dreaming, while the clock keeps ticking. Let me tell you something. Your destiny is not waiting on your words. It's waiting on your obedience. We've got people who can quote the vision, but won't take the first step. People who will tell you every detail of what they're going to do, what they could do, what they might do, but year after year, nothing changes. They're still in the same place, still making the same excuses, still praying for a breakthrough that they won't even put their feet behind. God blesses movement. Faith without works is dead. Prayer is powerful, yes, but prayer with no action, that's just spiritual procrastination. Don't just talk about starting the business, start building it. Don't just talk about writing the book. Open the laptop and get the words down. Don't just say you're going to heal. Go to therapy, forgive, grow, do the hard work. Don't just say you're going to break the cycle. Break it. Break it with how you love, how you parent, how you show up, how you treat people, how you carry yourself. Be about it. Because talking is easy. Talking makes you feel like you're making progress without ever having to risk anything. But action costs. It costs your comfort, it costs your pride, it costs your routine, it costs your excuses. And that's why many people choose to keep talking, because doing means you're accountable. Doing means you can fail. It means people will watch you and judge you and question you. But guess what? Obedience isn't about being perfect. It's about being faithful. It's about showing up with what you've got and trusting God to breathe on it. Some of you are waiting for the perfect time, the perfect resources, the perfect mood, the perfect alignment of circumstances before you move. But listen, perfection is a lie that paralyzes purpose. There's no such thing as the perfect moment. You make the moment by moving in faith. Some of the most powerful things God will do in your life won't start with confidence. They'll start with a small, trembling step in the right direction. Don't get caught in the trap of talking big and living small. You weren't created to live in the land of almost. Almost healed, almost free, almost obedient, almost ready, almost doesn't break chains, almost doesn't shift atmospheres, almost doesn't change generations. Action does, movement does, obedience does. And here's another thing. Stop waiting to feel like it. Obedience doesn't always come with warm fuzzies. Sometimes it feels like inconvenience, like discomfort, like stretching. But God honors faith over feelings. If Jesus had waited to feel like going to the cross, we'd all still be stuck. Purpose isn't about your comfort. It's about your calling. People will ask you, are you sure? You don't have to be sure. You just have to be surrendered. You don't have to have every detail figured out, but you do have to move, because sitting on a word for years doesn't make it stronger, it just makes you more stuck. You don't need another confirmation. You need to be about it. You've prayed, you've fasted, you've talked. And be clear, being about it doesn't mean it'll be easy. It just means you're finally serious. It means you're tired of circling the same mountain. It means you're no longer impressed with potential. You're hungry for progress. The world doesn't need more people who could make a difference. It needs people who will. People who move even when it's scary. People who build even when the blueprint isn't clear. People who trust God enough to stop waiting for the crowd and start moving with conviction.